little frustration, which I can't say I'm surprised about, as the Mariners have just, unfortunately, got a frustrating 0-0 draw over at Newport. In one way or another, it was frustrating, but in another sense, probably a fair result. Both teams missed penalties. I'll say it in a nice way, both teams had penalties saved. And they weren't great penalties, both of them. And I thought coming into this game, I knew that it was going to be one of those games where we'd have to be patient. And so it proved to be. Unfortunately, not able to get the result that we so desired. If we just look at what the team lineups were, David Artell went with his usual formation. Started with Jackson Smith in goal. Harvey Rogers, Terrell Warren came in for his first game for his first start since Western-super-Mare. Cam McJanet, Henry Staunton, Geza David Torrey started in the defensive midfield role. Jace Cabier, Kieran Green, Evan Corey and Charles Vernon, and Andy Cook leading the line. For Newport, obviously former Mariner Jordan Wright, Shepherd, Baker, Delaney, who was quite good for them to be fair, Davis, Brennan, Spellman, Biggins, Sprangler, Garner and Opoku. And we'll get on to Opoku during this, because he was a player that stood out for Newport. This game was really frustrating. Started early. Andy Cook had a very early chance, first couple of minutes in. His header, it was a great ball, and I believe it was by Staunton, I believe. Great ball across. A header by Cookie. Just grazed the top of the crossbar. And, you know, he was sort of having his way early on with Newport centre-back. It was a good battle between those two. Tory was doing very well early on, breaking up play, making it very difficult, trying to get out wide. Greeny being a menace as he always is. But you could tell they were there to frustrate us. You could feel that. They liked playing sort of a direct ball in the first half, didn't really work. Shepherd for them was a standout player, especially in the first half. Grimsby just had not so much. We hit the woodwork again round about 25 minutes or so, and you're thinking it's going to be one of these days, isn't it? Cook was an absolute menace in winning a majority of his knockdowns for Gabriel to run onto, and Vernon as well. Succession of corners by the Mariners as well. Nothing was landing, especially in the first half, and it was frustrating, but in a good way, if that makes sense. Newport weren't offering much first half. Corey had a decent chance. but throughout the first half, well, the first 25 minutes, I think KB did okay. I think Cook and KB didn't really link up as well this time. There was times where Jays was just being a little bit loose with his runs, and some of the passing a little bit was to be desired. We looked okay when we had the ball at the back. You know, we didn't really make any major mistakes with that in the first half. And like I said, we hit the woodwork again in the first half. Very frustrating. But we went in 0-0, and I was thinking, you know, not surprised. We had to be patient, and Cook got a very strange yellow card at the end of the first half, which I looked at and I thought, what's he given that for? It was a foul on Cook, and for some reason he gave it to Newport. The referee did seem a little bit well, I don't know. I think he a little bit whistle happy, I would say, really. But going into the second half, we had a number of throw-ins as well as more corners. To be fair, Newport in the second half came far more into it, especially heading into about the 55-minute hour mark. They were getting, they were finding a ball through. They were finding balls through by Brennan and things like that. Not really splitting our defence, but sort of going over the top and having Apoku sort of chase Terrell, which he won a couple of times. And one of those was what caused the first bit of drama for Grimsby, really, when Newport got a penalty, and he was clipped, and you're thinking, oh no, here's one of the best ways to score, which it was, and you're thinking, oh, here we go, second penalty in a week, because obviously we conceded one as well against MK Dons, but Apoku stepped up, and a great save, not a great penalty by Apoku, but a fantastic save by Jackson Smith. You have to save him, and pushed the ball away for a corner. Newport definitely looked better in the second half. Town was struggling. Tory started to struggle a bit more. They were a lot more relentless in the second half. They looked like they could feel like they could create something every time Apoku was sent on a run by either Delaney or Baker, or it was he was beaten to our Warren more often than not. Obviously, Cam McJanet had gone down early in the first half, and in the second half sort of redeemed himself, or dusted himself off, I should say. Kept on going. Rogers, I thought, was very, very calm in both the first and second halves. The Mariners then did get a penalty themselves, around about 75 minutes or so, which again it was a penalty. Neither sides, when contesting penalties, were really contesting it. And Charles Vernon stepped up, and you're thinking, great chance to get a goal in a game that Town had definitely dominated in the sense of chances, but a good save by Jordan Wright. And to be fair, it was end to end in the second half. Obviously subs were made late on by the Mariners, not necessarily the easiest. Gezatori got taken off for George McEachran on 67 minutes, and the other subs didn't happen until around about 80 minutes when Dara Burns, Jamie Walker, and Terrell Sellers-Fleming came on. Harvey Rogers got a booking on 74. I think it was more sort of accumulative more than anything else. And both teams kept trying, kept giving really everything they had, trying to break the other down. I think in the second half, Mariners just dropped a little bit in patches, just in patches, and I think you could tell the frustration in the team was there. Obviously, you could tell Newport were getting frustrated, and the fans over the time were getting frustrated with the referee. The referee did make some questionable calls, especially that Andy Cook booking, which I could not understand. But there we are. It was just one of those sort of games that I thought it was going to be, as in the sense it was going to be frustrating. The Mariners probably should have nicked this overall. I think obviously Anthony Glennon came on late on. He obviously for a Mariner. He had a chance with a free kick about 90 minutes in. There was 8 minutes of injury time. They got a free kick in that time as well, which was blasted by Glennon into the wall. To be fair, the defence held tight. Our defence did hold tight, which is always difficult when you've had, that disappointment of missing a penalty, having your penalty saved. There's definitely something about this side, and to be fair, the reason why I wasn't surprised about Newport scrapping for their lives, so I knew it wasn't going to be an easy one, but I'm going to say this, it was probably Jay's poorest performance in the town shirt today. He could not get to grips. His decision making was a little bit off. His runs just weren't the same. And I'm not just going to pick out Jay's. It's just I felt like that was, you could tell Jay's was struggling, whether it was with the physicality or, again, more the frustration, with it being a team near the bottom. And I think all in all, a draw was fair. Although, to be fair, both sides with the penalties, I'm not going to argue on both sides. They both were pens, and fair play to the keepers and fair play to the defenders. I think you could tell that Terrell hadn't played much, especially in the second half. He started to get, you could tell he was starting to get wary and wearing down. But you know, Cookie obviously a little frustrated, but he had a real strong first half and first hour really. When he was called upon, most of the stuff on the attacking side, his hold-up play was absolutely superb. I think there just wasn't enough today from the Mariners. There wasn't enough. But one big key thing I always say is, if you can't win a game, don't lose it. And actually, a friend of mine said draw was probably fair. They're never nice games to the scrappy ones, but you know, it's a point, and it keeps the unbeaten run going. I know that's 2 draws now. That's another clean sheet though for Jackson Smith. I'm actually going to give my man of the match to Jackson Smith, only because when he was called upon, he is absolutely immense. And everyone played a part in that, even though there was a few components that weren't quite right, didn't quite click. I think you have to give Newport credit for that though. You always know going into these games that you have to fight, you have to scrap, you have to battle. And yes, it's frustrating not to get the win, which is what we would have wanted to do going into midweek. And like they're going to take the positive, I think we've got to take the positive that it's another clean sheet for the Mariners. It's another clean sheet, obviously, for Jackson. We didn't lose a game that I think in the past we would have done. In the past season and a half, we probably would have lost a game like that. I know it's frustrating to only draw at bottom 2 Newport, but some of the results I saw midweek and that surround today, including Harrogate getting a win out of absolutely nowhere against a team you wouldn't expect them to get points against. At the end of the day, we got something. The lads didn't quite click. It didn't quite click today. But if there's one thing positive, and a couple of things positive is, like I said, another clean sheet for the defence and for Jackson. Andy Cook immense again, absolutely immense again. Every time he was getting knockdowns or, and there was good tussles in there. And I think you have to just take it as though we've got something out of it. We've got something out of a very, very tough, difficult game. And to come away with something, even though I'll tell you about the table in a minute, even though it doesn't really help us in the table wise type thing, it's better to take something than have nothing. So Town could have been better. It was just one of those days where stuff just didn't click. When Sellers Fleming come on, he did alright, but what Newport were able to do was to make it scrappy. Both teams tried to play, but at the same time, the amount of times that Jordan Wright's kicks went out, although to be fair to Jordan, he had a good game in general for Newport, and it was just, as frustrating as it is, just one of those days where it just wasn't quite to be. The win wasn't quite to be, and we'll go into a little bit of the match stats, which, like I said, don't mean an awful lot, but do at the same time. Obviously, the Mariners had most of the ball, 56.2, 13 shots, but only 2 on target. One obviously being the penalty save for Newport. 28 touches in the opposition box, 14 to Newport. This is where the frustration, does come in. You're thinking, if anything would have fell, we had a chance. I think it was McJanet from 4 yards out in the second half as well, where he just couldn't get a connection on it right, and just the decision making wasn't quite right. Like I said, the Mariners at the woodwork twice, 367 passes to 293. The forward passes seemed a bit not too sure by the Mariners this time, but 153 of those. We did make 75 long passes, but it's just one of those games. I feel like it just wasn't to be our day. But as I've said before, if you're not gonna win, make sure you don't lose. And to be fair, another clean sheet, that 6 in 7. You're not really going to argue about that, but obviously because of who it was against, it's a little bit more frustrating. If we just quickly, before I finish, look at the league table, the Mariners are down in 12th. Don't worry about that. Just other results kind of went against us, but not by an awful lot. And obviously, Newport are now just goal difference ahead of Harrogate, who's 2 points further back, 2 points further back from Shrewsbury, and only a point further from Barrow. So it's building up to be quite a strong and interesting build up in this middle part, and obviously we move on now. We have to move on to Wednesday night against Accrington. But if you're coming back from Newport, been to Newport, do leave your thoughts down below on the game. What was your thoughts on the both penalties? What's your guys' thoughts on it? My advice was always don't get too carried away. The lads tried. It was just one of those days where it just didn't. It just didn't happen. It just didn't come off. But can't fault the efforts. Man of the match for me, Jackson Smith. Let me know who you would give man of the match to. I think when you save a penalty, I think you've got to give it to the keeper. And I will be back with a preview of Accrington that will be coming out on Monday. Look out for that when we host Accrington on the Wednesday. That was a busy next 10 days for the Mariners, really. So, kind of like now, it's 3 home games on the bounce, I believe. So, yes, it is. It's 3 home games on the bounce. So, so a busy time for the Mariners ahead. Leave me your thoughts down below on the game. Leave me, like I said, your thoughts on man of the match. Your thoughts on what do you think of the penalties. I'm not arguing with either of them. I think they both were. I've heard from a couple of people that they didn't think it was. But no, to me, I'm not arguing with either. And just quickly, the attendance was 3,898 at Newport this afternoon as I record this. So that is my review. Let me know what you think down below. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Town are in 12th. They're 4 points from the playoff places. And let me know what you think down below. And I will see you on Monday for the preview for Accrington Stanley. Until then, guys, up the manners. Don't get too frustrated about this result. We can look at it this way. Let's look at the positives. It's another clean sheet. And, another game where, as much as, another team that can't pass us, it's 4 points against Newport as well. So leave your thoughts down below. Like, share, comment and subscribe. And I will see you for the preview for Accrington on Monday. Until then, up the manners. Ta-ra for now. Bye-bye.